Did N.W.A. and your father, Eazy, inspire you and motivate you to, like, think outside the box, but also put yourself out there? Because there was a time they weren't going to put "fuck the police" out, but then they did, and then it seemed like, in a good way, they wanted to stand out. They dressed in all black. They were the all-star team, they said, like the all-star group. And also, there was times in interviews where your father was wearing a straitjacket and like a Jason mask, so he was pretty much like he was hyping himself up playing the part, and it seemed like he he loved it. He really wasn't crazy, but he amplified it and he hyped it up and he put himself out there.
He loved all of it. I mean, he had a tattoo on his hand, and a lot of people thought it was like a devil worshiping thing, and obviously he was not into that. He found it hilarious. He really did. He found it hilarious. I've heard stories from many people. I have pictures with my dad, and you can just clearly see it. Plain as day, and he found it hilarious just that people would even believe that stuff. It's kind of like social media now. You kind of can have a facade, and
exactly.
you can just have these pretend lives, and some people get a kick out of it. He was really one of those people, and it was kind of like, okay, well, if this is getting the attention and this is making us bigger, and I'm all for it. He didn't care, because what him and Cube and Dre were doing was, using their power, using their influence, and, everything to speak out on all the things that were happening that they watched that they felt were wrong. And to me, that there's nothing wrong in that. And to have a little fun behind it, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
So what do you think some of the misconceptions are about your father? I mean, in the movie, it showed a little bit of him laughing, having a good time. But from what I read about him, it shows that, he really had a soft side.
And also, we just talked
absolutely.
about how he would play the crazy part, and people, like media outlets, would actually think like N.W.A. is so negative, they're crazy, they're lunatics, but it was just kind of, a facade in a way. Everyone isn't like that crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the biggest misconception with him. Everyone thinking, he was just this little gangster with his looks on and his hat, and, and not knowing how genuine he was, and, his drive, and just him believing in other people, and him being so caring and giving and being silly, and that's one thing, my grandmother used to tell me all the time. My grandma, my mom's mom, she's a Jewish lady, a white Jewish lady, and she would be like, everybody thinks that Eric was just so, mean and gangster. She's like, he is the sweetest, most loving young man. Like, that's literally how she talked about him. And I was like, yeah, I bet people weren't thinking he was literally sitting up with some Jewish grandparents in the house being some sweetheart. People didn't really know that side. And I like in the movie, they do show, his just being funny, his personality, and everybody that did know him knew that he was like that. He was a big jokester too. He played a lot of pranks. I mean, I've heard stories my entire life just on different pranks that he pulled on all kinds of people. Really, just like a big kid at heart.
Mm-hmm. Can you share one of those pranks with us?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I know. There's one thing, I can't remember if it was I think it was a Chucky doll or something he had in his house. In his house he had a lot of of evil characters like that, like Chucky, and I think he had oh my god, I'm trying to think, what is the name? Like a Predator. He had all these little figures, like they were really big though in his house, and he liked the whole dark and evil thing. And I know that one night he had something. It was with my mom, and he has the dolls just kind of standing there, when you open up the door, stuff like that, just to scare you, just little silly stuff all of the time.
In the We Want Eazy video, he was wearing this. It was like the craziest jacket. When I was a kid, I loved it. I wanted it so bad. It was kind of looked like a Predator symbol, but it was a Raider jacket. I don't know if you remember it. It was blinging. It was glowing. On the part of it was glowing. It was like a Raider sign, but it looked like a Predator. It reminded me of that because he always had the flyest Raider gear.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Which is ironic. I'm not a Raider fan.
Oh man, we got some Raider gear right here.
Are you?
In the crib.
Yeah, I'm a Raider fan.
Are you? You know what? I got some friends that play for the Raiders, and there's but they don't win.
No, they're on the come up.
It's hard to be a fan.
They have the biggest. I know they got Amari Cooper over there. I mean, he's doing some things. I mean, yeah, the team. I feel like it's coming up. One of my best friends is Malcolm Smith. Actually, he just got traded to the Raiders.
Oh yeah.
So that's exciting. Yeah. So I mean, I'm probably gonna be watching some more Raiders games this year, but.
And is there any unreleased Eazy-E music out there that you're going to put out with this documentary, or there's actually nothing? Because I know Tupac has so much music, but Eazy-E, I don't hear anything.
Oh, yes, Tupac has so much music. I was actually really good friends with Johnny J. He was a producer. He did a lot of the Tupac stuff, and before he passed away a couple years ago, we would hang out in his studio. He had so many Tupac records, but I heard Tupac was doing 10 records a day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the music. To be honest, I feel like if anybody has some, it might be Dre. That's something that I probably would love to ask him. And Tamika probably owns it, and she's not letting nothing go.
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah.
And
I mean, anything like that I could ever get my hands on and share with the world, I mean, I definitely would be fighting for.
And also, people want to know about Eazy, how he passed away so early with HIV and AIDS within a couple-month period. They thought it was, obviously a conspiracy, and they just want to know, like, what was the situation with that. And I heard it because he went to New York City. It was really cold out at the tunnel. He met with Ice Cube, and they saved their friendship. They talked, and then he walked. Instead of getting a cab, he walked back to the hotel, and then he got really sick, got pneumonia. Then he went back to L.A., and he got really, really sick, and then that's when it all went downhill. I don't know. Is that accurate?
Somewhat, yeah. He did get sick, and, they said he did have pneumonia or whatnot, but there's a lot of details in there that I can't give you right now, but
Okay.
when I tell you, it was very jaw-dropping. Like,
Okay.
when you watch this documentary and you hear some of these facts, I mean, you're going to be like, wow, and then it'll all make sense to people at this point, because
Cool.
what person, especially with money, get something like that, and you don't just get full-blown AIDS that fast. I mean, it starts off with HIV. You don't die within a couple of months. I mean, that's just unheard of.
Yeah, especially Magic Johnson and things like that.
I mean, he's been living for forever at this point, to the point where his conspiracy theories of people saying he doesn't have it, like it's gotten to that point,
Yeah.
You don't pass away that fast.
So I feel like we took a lot of your time up, but I feel like I went over the time.
I know. It's funny. I've been doing a lot of interviews, and I told my mother, actually, I'm like, the coolest ones are the ones, I like the people that know what they're talking about, and it kind of seems more like a friendship, and it's easier, because I'm like, they're the ones who get the most out of me. I'm like, I don't know why some of these people don't do their jobs right, because they want to find out more stuff,
Yeah.
No, but I really appreciate you guys.
No problem.
Very much.
Yeah, I was watching some interviews while I was researching, and news outlets, like, they asked the most basic ass questions, and I didn't want to ask you any of that. They asked you like the lamest. They didn't know anything about Eazy. They didn't know anything about hip hop, and they asked the lamest questions about the movie.
Yeah, it's been very, very, very surface. Like very, very repetitive, very surface. No, but I really appreciate this. I could talk all day about it. I mean, there's nothing I'm more passionate about than my own father.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't want to get you ask offended questions and things of that nature. I just wanted, because the Suge Knight, Jerry Holler, and all this, your brother and everything of that. But you handled it very well, and I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, where can people, check you out and, learn more about who you are and what you're bringing to the table, especially, with your merchandise, the documentaries, and all that stuff?
So everything, like all my social media, everything is all We Want EB. The website is WeWantEB.com. My Twitter, my Instagram, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, everything is all We Want EB. And as more things develop, I mean, everything will be put up on my website. So even down to, information on the documentary, that's where you can purchase my hats. That's where you'll be able to keep up with my music, outside of like SoundCloud and YouTube, obviously. And, and hopefully, like I said, I can get this EP out in October, and so hopefully people will just be waiting on that.
All right, EB,
Nice,
thank you so
nice.
much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
I'll see you. Thank you.